Hello! Pokemon Day stuff. Hey, let's go. So last year I did I'm gonna check the channel. It was a two-part series where I talked about the possibilities for things that would be announced on Pokemon Day of 2024. Now, almost a year later, we have gotten exactly one trailer for a new game from Game Freak, and we have gotten a whole new mobile phone app that titled Pokemon TCG Pocket, or Pokemon Trading Card Game Pocket in its full name. Going back to the Pokemon Day video, I was pretty much the closest I got to being correct was talking about a Legends game being announced. Yeah, that's pretty much as close as I got. But since we know that Legends Z-A is going to be there most likely, since it's been almost a year since the last trailer on Pokemon Day, so when will this go out? This will go out like Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe. Yeah, Tuesday. It'll go out. This one will go out Tuesday, and the next one will go out Wednesday. So since Pokemon Day is like 2 days away, essentially, or one, I'll be we'll be getting a trailer for this game, but also I'll be talking about what I think we'll see, and going into detail about a lot of stuff. And then, to be completely transparent, the next part, the part 2, will just be talking about other rumors I've heard, talking about how likely I think they would be and how I feel about them and all that. Sorry about all this. I just had to scroll back to see where my Pokemon Day stuff was. One of them came out February 22nd. The other one was the 26th. There were 4 days in between them. Oh wow. I'll just have them both come out back to back this time. So this, like I said, this part is going to be talking about Pokemon Legends Z-A. So, on the extremely tiny, minuscule chance that you don't know what I'm talking about or have forgotten, because of how long it's been, I'm not entirely sure how likely that is. Pokemon Legends Z-A is the upcoming Legends game, duh, it's in the title, which is going to be based in the Kalos region, specifically Lumio City of the Kalos region. From what we know, there is a reconstruction project happening to Lumio City, and we will be taking part in it. Now, that is just about where all the official concrete details end. We know it's going to be a Legends game, which means most likely, at bare minimum, it's going to be more of an action-oriented game with the throwing of the Pokeballs and everything. And we know that it's supposed to be coming this year, and that it takes place in Lumio City in the Kalos region. That is officially all we know about the game. Other stuff can be inferred, like Zygarde is going to be involved, because Arceus was involved in Legends Arceus, obviously. Arceus was in the name, this one is Z-A, but, Zygarde, and the fact that the logo has all those hexagons in it, and the only one Pokemon in Kalos to be that intense with those hexagons is Zygarde. In fact, it might be the only one that's like that with those. And then I guess by technicality, the ride Pokemon, because people found it's again the Legends game, and the ride Pokemon were really put into place in Legends, which, on an offshoot, I think I kind of prefer having the multiple Pokemon to the one, like in Scarlet and Violet. I think we're into it too early, but I'll get to it. So we'll wait. Other than that, yeah, the riding Pokemon will be in the game, both because it's a Legends game, Legends Arceus had it, but also if we're going to be actually legitimately real, there were some trademarks that were found that brought up ride Pokemon. So we know that that's going to be a thing. So, that is actually legitimately all the actual information we have about this game. Other than that, we don't know if it's going to take place in the past or the future, what the starters are going to be, what specifically the ride Pokemon are. We know ride Pokemon are there, but we don't know what Pokemon they would be. So that leads into what I think the Pokemon Day trailer will be. It will likely be our standard. Here's your starters, your player character, your professor, and some views of the region that we would likely see. Except in this case, it's some views of the city. And that brings me to... I did want to do the starter Pokemon first, but I think this one's going to be the longest. So I'm going to probably I'm just going to skip those for now. The main draw of the game, the main setting of the game, the main point of contention for the game currently, despite us not seeing anything about it yet, is the fact that it only takes place in Lumio City from the press releases and game synopsis that we have from almost a year ago. Now, my thoughts. I don't care. See, this could go one of two ways, and both ways I think it won't matter. Because from what I can guess, I think the main problem is thinking that it won't be as diverse. It will get boring. Or then there's also just, wanting to see the rest of the region. The region itself is fine, but I think because the reconstruction thing is pretty much the perfect thing they could have done for something when they decided it was only going to take place in one city, because then that means that there could have been or there could be any biomes within the game. And we could just make the excuse of either we're building the city on top of it or it's being built into the city. Then there's other stuff they could do, like being able to travel through the sewer system, or, France has those underground catacombs, I think specifically Paris. But, using that in the game as well is something that I think they could do as well. But going back to the two directions I think it could go. It's either going to be slightly larger than the original Lumio City in X and Y, which, to its credit, was, I think, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, city in Pokemon games before Scarlet and Violet. And most of that was solidly modeled, but they could, just hollow just some stuff out, make things more accessible, like going into all the buildings. And then from there, just have, the outskirts of Lumio City be a place you end up. Or they could blow the city up to, a GTA 5 sized city, which in itself would essentially be a region. And the different biomes would be different plazas / areas of the city. So one part of this, because not every city is completely flat. A lot of them, there's a lot of them that will use the natural geography of the area and will only make changes when it excuse me. There are a lot of them that will only use the geography of the area they're already in and will only change it if it messes with the structural integrity of the buildings, or makes it virtually impossible for anyone to really get anywhere. So in that respect, they could have a multi-level city with different biomes that have wild Pokemon everywhere. That reminds me, one of the things I said was the point of the renovation for the city was to make it more friendly like, not more friendly, make it more, give it a better ability to accommodate both people and Pokemon, essentially. So, if I had to choose what I think that means, it probably is the second one, where we're overhauling the original Lumio City from X and Y to be this more expansive area that will accommodate wild Pokemon as well. Now, for the progression of the game, we don't know what the progression looks like. It could be something like the basic Pokemon games where you have to get stuff to get to other places. It most likely will be kind of a mix, or solely like Legends Arceus, where catching Pokemon is required. That one had the we're making a Pokedex thing, so I'm not sure what this one has, no matter when it takes place. But again, we'll see. I'm excited to see how they pull it off, if anything. My thing with games, I said this in my thoughts on Sonic Frontiers, which I doubt you would have seen even if you do watch the channel, because yeah. And this also will come up in my thoughts on Scarlet and Violet that'll come out like either a week to a few days before this game does. But I'm not exactly looking for anything specific. What I'm here for a lot of the time is to see the idea that they're working with, in this case an adventure solely in Lumio City, apparently, and seeing how they execute it, and if I like how it's executed or not. Anything else, I don't care, right? Because I personally think every idea that could come out could be good. It's about execution. So I don't really mind that it's only in Lumio City from what we were told. I want to see how they execute it, and that will be the main thing that decides if I'm interested in the game or not. I probably will be, because my main draw for Pokemon games is exploring the region and meeting all the Pokemon and characters. And then Legends added on to it by being an action-based game, which is more my speed regardless. So I'll probably like this one too, and hopefully I will, because it's already in a generation I would consider one of my favorites. But that was the whole city thing. If I have any other things to say about the city part, I'll say them later. Alright, so this is addendum number 1. There might be a couple more, but earlier today, this is now the 20th, instead of when I recorded the original video on the 19th, there's two things. A, I'll get the news out of the way. They've officially announced the Pokemon Presents happening now today, a week from now. So, that's happening the usual time, 9 EST, 6 PT, PST. Don't know what the other times are off the top of my head. I'm a United States person, so. But, yeah, so the stream will likely start, let's see, 9. So I'll likely start like 8 something. I'm aiming to have it be 8 or 8:30. Last year's I aimed to have it start at 8 or 8:30, but that did not happen. So I'm hoping to do that again this time, so we can actually do stuff like draw, play some Pokemon Legends Arceus maybe. Now for the other thing. It was when I was talking about Lumia City in the first part, because I did record both of those parts the same day, basically one after the other. It was when I was going to get, okay, so I didn't exactly, I started the project for the editing, currently, again, at the time of recording. I started the project, the whole of the audio is there, all of the video that I'm going to use for it is there. All I need are the images and choosing the music. And if I'm going to draw anything for it, I need to do that. But it was when I was talking about the Lumio City part of the game that I went to Bulbapedia to go get the images for Lumio City, because it would help to have a visual aid for that part of the video. And I kind of expected to only get the one image that I had already, that I've made the background for my Pokemon Y's 12 stream thumbnail. But instead, we got what I would assume to be a super guide image of Lumio City. And something I had forgotten about, that being, we've gotten the map of Lumio City overhead for Legends Z-A already. It was in the trailer, and they have a HD version of it, because I think it's essentially, that's just a still from the trailer. Also, alternatively, I realized I did not have the actual original trailer for it saved, so I saved that as well. So yeah, but you can see there are a lot more areas, like places that were just buildings, and that was it in the original, actually have stuff. We can see a park with huge pools. We can see a battle facility, most likely somewhere in there. The plazas are bigger. I'm so ready for this. But yeah, that was basically all I wanted to say. I'm not entirely sure at this point if recording that part of the video again would be a good idea, since all of my thoughts would remain the same essentially, because even though we can see overhead, we don't know what the city looks like exactly. Hell, they could still do inclining and all that other stuff, but you know, we won't know until we see it. Like, see it, not just in this way. Back to the video, wherever the hell this ends up getting put in. Yeah, I have to get ready for some of this. But now for the starter Pokemon, because to be completely honest, we can't predict what the player characters will look like ever. So yeah. And same thing with other characters. We don't know what kind of characters will be there, what their purposes will be, so it really just be a shot in the dark. But for the starters, which are also a shot in the dark, to be fair, I don't think they are or really should try to keep the original starters for the region they're in. They didn't for Sinnoh, which was a nice breath of fresh air, so I think part of Legends' identity moving forward, because again, this game is supposed to be a new ambitious game. So to set this a little bit, this is supposed to be an even more ambitious game than Legends Arceus was for the series. So going into that, this game is going to be big, while also simultaneously, I personally think we'll be deciding what the identity of the Legends games are, because let's be real here, there's only been one. You can't have one and then say that there's a whole identity for a subsection of the series that only has one game. I would say like 3 or 4 games would be when you start building an identity. So on top of being another really ambitious game, the newest, best, most ambitious game for the series, it will also help determine what identity the Legends games have. Because you could say, oh, it was building the Pokédex, it was seeing regions in the past, it was finding out how true past Legends were. But at the end of the day, that was only the one game. Pokemon Legends can be whatever they want it to be. Obviously, it would have some rules, but what I'm saying is one game isn't enough to establish those rules, really. unless those rules end up either being way too constrictive and basically being Legends Arceus again, like almost exactly, or being too broad to where there might as well not even be the Legends subdivision of games. But yeah, I brought all that up. How did I get here from starters? Oh yeah, because I was talking about how I think they shouldn't keep the original starters like Legends Arceus did. As in, like, they should do what Legends Arceus did and have a different set of starters. All right. So yeah, I don't think the Gen 6 starters should be the starters for this game. I think, obviously, just like in Legends Arceus, where the Sinnoh starters got signature moves, the Kalos starters should get something for this game. And obviously that thing would be a Mega. But in terms of the actual starters for the game, I think they should be different. Now, moving on to what those starters will be, I have no clue. My favorite speculation so far, my favorite speculation so far has been Snivy, Scorbunny, and Totodile. I think, yeah, Totodile is my second favorite out of the Johto starters. And I do like all the Gen 5 starters. Ironically, despite being the first one I could call my favorite generation, I think the Fire-type starter in Gen 5 is the one I ended up liking the least out of all the Fire-type starters. I still like it, it's just not as much my speed as everything else. But since they already did Samurott, which I would consider my favorite of the Gen 5 starter trios, Snivy's a pretty good choice for that. And Scorbunny is my favorite of the Galar starters. So that seeing people predict and say that might be it was pretty cool. But if we are going to keep the same generations overall that Legends Arceus had, which I don't know if they do that either, I would accept that more than the Gen 6 starters. But again, I'm not really picky about, like, I'll accept even having the Gen 6 starters again. It's just I think that having the other generation starters idea from Legends Arceus would be cool. But other than that, I've seen the same thing, but with Litten instead, so making it so that it's the same exact generation from Legends Arceus, which is also cool. So that would mean that it'd be like Snivy, Totodile, and Litten. And by proxy, I guess that could also mean that it would be like Poplio, Chikorita, and Tepig. The one thing I don't see them doing is repeating a starter from another generation. So I saw a thumbnail where someone had a Tepig and a Snivy and a Totodile on it. I don't see that happening, not at all. You know, if you're gonna spread the representation, you spread it evenly. Other than that, I think I've seen... What else? I've seen people change... Funnily enough, Snivy has been the most consistent one that I've seen for people's predictions. Totodile and... in my scenario, the Totodile and the Scorbunny thing has been the one that's changed the most. And even then, Totodile is a lot... It's really just a fire starter that people are changing a lot. And I do honestly hope that is the case. Now, since I've tried to do this the last time, because I have tried to do this one time before, like 2 weeks ago, and just didn't really feel like continuing the recording after I did it, and I didn't like the way that it was afterward. Ironically, I have more to say now. Snivy, and by extension Superior, can be pretty good currently. It has its contrary ability, and Terrestrialization helped basically everything. But I still personally think that it could get something different, more moves. Like, looking at its actual move pool, like, it does good at grass-type stuff. But when every other starter gets, like, half the type pool worth of coverage, that one just feels a little out of place now. Even with Samurai. Samurai gets Ghost, Dark, Fighting, Bug. I think it gets some Ice type and some Flying type moves, as well as his Water type moves. Same thing with Emboar. Emboar gets like Electric, Fighting, Dark. I think it also gets some Flying. It gets a Grass type move, I think. So, like, having that one be like the only one that gets like one move for 4 types, pretty much like an attacking move, I think it could do with more. And giving it a spot in Legends Z-A, and this is even with the possibility that it wouldn't even get a regional variant final evolution. It would still have basically forced them to have to give it something. And yeah, a lot of these starters would also be getting a final evolution. Potentially both a final evolution change and a mega evolution. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But yeah, there aren't really many. Oh, there was another one, another starter trio type thing that I've seen. Again, the Snivy and Totodile didn't change, but it was Torchic instead. Now, I don't exactly think that Torchic would, thinking about it more, I don't exactly think Torchic would, I don't exactly think Torchic would end up as one of the starters. Just because it, not only does it already have a Mega Evolution, but it was one of the Mega Evolutions that first featured in X and Y in the first place. I don't think necessarily that means it's less likely, but if we were looking at it from that perspective, I think that'd be one of the ones where it probably wouldn't, because it was one of the first Mega Evolutions in the public eye regardless. Like, I think, if anything, one of the other Gen 3 starters would be more likely, since that was a Mega Evolution from Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, something that a lot of people wouldn't have played and would have only gotten if they had those Pokemon in Sun and Moon, which in itself was something something else entirely, because Mega Evolution wasn't really a big part of that game. So yeah, my preferred starter trio would be Snivy, Scorbunny, and Totodile. But I have seen some other ones, even like without changing the fire starter. I've seen, like, for the water starter, I've seen Sobble, I've seen, just like with Torchic, I've seen Mudkip. I think I've also seen Piplup as well, being the starter for the water type one. Grass type is tricky because there really haven't been many, at least from what I've seen, many predictions that weren't the grass snake. I'm not sure if snakes have something to do with France. They might. I think I remember hearing it was involved with France somewhere, or Paris. But, like, other than Snivy, I don't know. I see. We have to exclude the new generations, and most likely exclude the one from. We exclude Chespin. Damn, I can't word. We exclude Chespin for obvious reasons, and we exclude Sprigatito because it's too recent, and we exclude the ones that already have Mega Evolutions. So that would be Bulbasaur and Trico out. And Rowlet was already in the Legends game, so it's also out. What does that leave us with? That leaves us with only Turtwig, Chikorita, and Snivy, I think. Right? Bulbasaur, Trico, Chespin, Sprigatito. Sprigatito, Sprigatito, Chespin, 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 Rowlet. 5 out of 9. Yeah, that only leaves 4. So that's Chikorita, Snivy, Turtwig, and Grookey, I guess. So that's also, those are the ones that are possible there. At least from what we understand. They could just rug pull us and do something else entirely. I don't know exactly what they could do with Final Evolutions for those, if they decide to do it. I think it'd be cool to have both different Final Forms, like Legends Arceus, and also have them have the Mega Evolutions. Because, again, if we're talking about the signature move stuff that they added, the starters for Legends Arceus did also get new ones of those, as well as their different form. So in Legends Z-A's case, the signature move thing would become Mega Evolution. And so I do think, in terms of keeping it with the original Legends game, having them have different forms as well as Megas would be the definitely the best thing for, like, I don't like saying like the best thing for fans or something, but I guess in terms of a fan's point of view, that would be the best thing for them to do. All I can really hope is that whatever they do pick definitely should be increasing what they can do, because a lot of starters do feel, except for like the recent ones, so like the Gen 8, Gen 9, maybe Gen 7. Yeah, that's about it. So like them, a lot of them could do with a little bit of an upgrade. Maybe not a big one, because they are already a lot of them are already really good and competitive. But more so that like people have a reason to actually use a lot of them within team comps, and they aren't a starter. But it's whatever, you know. We'll see. Those two things, that's about it for solid stuff. This is technically about the city, but going back to the way possible progression would work, I have seen an idea floating around about the different plazas. There are 5 different plazas in Lumio City. That each of those would have some sort of leader that you'd have to deal with. Again, this is assuming it's in the past, because if it's in the future, we would also have Prism Tower to deal with, which has a leader, the gym leader, Clement, however you say his name. And I think that'd be cool to see him. If it is later in the future, he probably would have moved on for being gym leader, maybe. So we could see a whole new gym leader. That also does bring up, if it is in the far future, that would mean that it would be great to see, like, who the professor is, if they have any relation to Professor Sycamore. Or if, we would see older versions of our friends from X and Y, or something, that type of stuff. But progression-wise, because Legends Arceus was tied to the Pokedex and the Lords and Ladies, so it's not too much of a stretch to say that Legends Z-A, whether it takes place in the past or future, would do the same thing, kind of. And it's really hard to see how that would play out without seeing how the city looks. Because depending on how they execute the Lumio City part of the game, we could be looking at completely different Pokemon, like being those ride Pokemon, or like just something that is respected in the city, something that's actively hindering the ability to renovate the city. It could be something way more story-based than Legends Arceus was. It could be the same type that Legends Arceus was, where there were pretty major story things happening. But it wasn't... How do I put this? It wasn't like a... I don't know how exactly this... Like, it definitely... I think more focused was something that I should call it. Because Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet are the same thing, where there are pretty significant moments with characters and plot stuff but there isn't really like a focus like go here, go here, go here. Legends Arceus kind of has that. Scarlet and Violet really just doesn't. Scarlet and Violet has here's your bosses, find your way to them. Legends Arceus, you did have the end boss, and you did have missions to do. But unless you were catching Pokemon along the way, which you probably were, but even if you weren't, even if you were anyway, it's very possible that you could run into the go out, catch stuff, and then come back and we'll see if we have anything for you. I think what would be cool is having a game that's open like them, but like, how do I want to put this? Having a game that's open like them, that necessarily each area has its own major story, I guess. Which Legends Arceus kind of did, but a lot of them were like small. I mean, like major, something each of them individually play into the end of the game. So like a mix between what Scarlet and Violet did, where every part of the story did come together at the end, but having them all be their own stories in general, I guess it would be. Because Legends Arceus is kind of like that, but they're mainly focused on characters. I mean, like, having every single story for each area, all of them build up to the end of the game, instead of, like, going through one area, then another, and then the end of the game. Legends Arceus, it barely had it. Like, each time we defeated one of the lords or ladies, the rift would close. But I think having significant parts of the story, like significant parts of the story in each section would be cool. But again, all of this really just depends on how they're built. Like if it's a flat city but it's gigantic, or if like different parts are different things. Ooh. All that would really influence how the story will go, I think. So that's about it for Legends Z-A. There isn't really much to talk about because all we got was that holographic trailer last year. The only other things we really know about it is like, okay, Zygarde's involved. But also, like, it's coming out for the Switch. And really only the Switch. The Switch 2 will be able to play Switch games, so you can, of course, play it on your Switch 2. But in terms of its actual release, it's only coming out on the Switch. So yeah, that's about it for Legends Z-A. There wasn't really much. Oh, no. This one is, well, to me it's not that important, but it's for a lot of people will make it a big deal. The graphics of the game. I've seen some rumors that it would just be Scarlet and Violet, most likely. And all I have to say to that is, how is that a surprise? Legends Arceus, and actually, if we're going to really go back, Fire Red Leaf Green, Heart Gold Soul Silver, like Ruby Alpha Sapphire, and then now Legends Arceus. All those games have been literally just the game that started the generation they're on, except slightly different. Generation, Fire Red Leaf Green, Heart Gold Soul Silver, Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. Those games were just base Gen 3, 4, and 6 with some improvements to them. Same thing with Legends Arceus. Legends Arceus, from basically every aspect, is just Sword and Shield with a different graphical, like with texturally, and in some cases the way they load in. Like, obviously not the Pokemon models. Those are radically different. But if we're talking about the people models and the environments, it's just Sword and Shield with different ways of loading in things and different texturing. And lighting. But, like, so saying that something is going to be inherently wrong with Z-A because it's doing the same thing for Scarlet and Violet makes no sense. Just none at all. The only ones that don't do that, I think, are Let's Go and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl. And I mean, one of them was built in Unity. There was really no way to do that. And the other one, by technicality, is not what I just said is even true, because Let's Go is basically a Gen 7 game on Switch. And that game is able to pull off all those graphical effects. It lags on the original Switch hard in certain areas, especially if you're playing in handheld mode, but it's able to pull a lot of that off because it's simple and the camera isn't doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff like it is in even base Gen 7, not even talking about generations 8 and 9 where there's full camera control. And even ignoring the Unity part, Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl could do the same thing, because they didn't have to worry about seeing what different parts of the area you were in were being loaded, and how that would have to be affected by the camera and camera changes, because both of those games were top down, and there was no way you could see anything else other than top down. The only way that changed was if you went up by, like, flying on something. And that's only Let's Go. In Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, that just does not exist. But yeah, I think expecting it to have been anything else but Gen 9, but maybe with different lighting, different texturing, like a different kind of stylistic choices, was a mistake. A mistake that I'm honestly not sure how it was made. But yeah, that's about it for this. We don't really have much to go off of, so, you know, I'll be there and waiting for when we do get that trailer. If nothing else, I am excited to see what the trainer character looks like. I'm excited for everything, but if nothing else catches me, I'll likely be interested in the character designs for things when we see them. But that's a huge if. Like, that is damn near impossible for me to not be interested in another Legends game. So yeah, that's it. 38 minutes? Damn. The next part, we'll be talking about just other rumors in general. As well as some stuff that I forgot to mention here. So yeah, I'll see you then. Also known as tomorrow.